Honored to represent J Street and our 170,000 supporters before this committee and before the Knesset. 3 years ago, I helped to found J Street to give voice to a large number of Jewish Americans who, like me, care deeply about Israel and are profoundly concerned about its future. At J Street, we've built a home where we work for Israel's security through a two-state solution to the conflict with the Palestinians, and we ground our work in the Jewish values on which we were raised. My own family's connection to Israel goes back 130 years and 4 generations. My great-grandparents were in the first Aliyah. My grandparents were founders of Tel Aviv. My father was in the Etzel and a friend and comrade in arms with many of the parents of the current members of the Knesset. My parents are buried in Jerusalem, a city where I have lived and where I was engaged to be married. Like so many members of J Street, I am committed to the dream of a secure and a thriving national home for the Jewish people in the land of Israel, rooted in the values of our prophets. Allow me to be clear, contrary to the press release from the committee chairman's office yesterday, we did not come before this committee to apologize, but to deliver 2 clear messages. The first is to reaffirm our deep commitment to the state and to the people of Israel. I bring with me a petition signed in just the last 48 hours from over 15,000 J Street supporters, affirming our hope to work with you as allies. I also bring hundreds of personal letters from J Street members, including from parents of soldiers in the IDF and from people who raised money for Israel's fight for independence in the 1940s, that explain how they have found a home at J Street. I will leave these letters with you to read so you can see how clearly J Street supporters are friends and allies of Israel. Second, I come to warn of the grave risk that Israel faces in thinking that only those who hold certain political views can be your friends. This country is too small, our people too few, and the dangers too great for us to let political differences sever the bonds between Jews living here and abroad. The Jewish people are one family, scattered by history to the corners of the globe, yet bound together by shared values and traditions. Like all families, at times we see eye to eye, and at times we have our differences. In the past, some American Jews have criticized the government of Israel for giving up too much for peace, whether withdrawing from the Sinai, pulling out of Gaza, or entering the Oslo process. Others have criticized Israel's government for not doing enough for peace, for instance, for continuing the expansion of settlements. Such political disagreements are part of the lifeblood of the Jewish people. Given the difficult road ahead, our disagreements may very well continue or even deepen. But in keeping with our tradition, we should work through our differences with respect, vibrant discussion, and open dialogue. It only weakens Israel and the Jewish people to make differences of opinion into something greater and to accuse those who criticize Israeli policy of being anti-Israel or worse. The choices ahead for Israel are, of course, yours to make. We cannot tell you what to do. But as friends and as family, we cannot in good conscience sit by quietly and pretend not to see the dangers you face, in particular the growing international isolation that Israel will confront without a resolution of the conflict. We also cannot be silent in the face of the troubling trends that threaten Israel's Jewish and democratic character. These include not only this unprecedented hearing into the political views of a Jewish American organization, but proposals to narrow the definition of who you consider to be a Jew or the application of a loyalty oath to Israeli citizenship. Now is not the time to push away your friends and family, even if we criticize one policy or another. Such an approach to Jewish Americans will only leave Israel further isolated and at risk. It will particularly alienate the younger generation of Jewish Americans who are less comfortable with a relationship in which they are not allowed to raise questions and in which discussions are limited. Now is the time to pull together, recognizing we are in this together as one people, one family with a shared heritage and a common interest in achieving real peace and security. Israel will be stronger if its prime minister, its civil servants, and its diplomats, including your ambassador in Washington, meet and work with J Street to advance the interests of Israel despite our disagreements over policy. We owe this not simply to the dreams of our parents and grandparents, but to the hopes of our children and the generations yet to come. I thank you very much for the opportunity to engage in this conversation.
מר בן עמי, הדברים שלך היו יפים, ממלכתיים, אפילו במרכז הליכוד אפשר היה להקריא את הדברים האלו.
להיבחר גם?
לא יודע אם להיבחר, אבל להקריא. אני רוצה לבקש ממך להתייחס לשאלות ששאלתי, שאלות מטרידות, לגבי הפעילות שלך עם השדולה האיראנית, שקרא להתנגדות על סנקציות נגד איראן, ולגבי השמות של חבר קונגרס, לא של חבר כנסת, של חבר קונגרס אקרמן, שהאשים את הארגון שלכם, שאתם פעלתם שלא יהיה וטו אמריקאי. שפה במדינת ישראל הייתה עבודה של משרד החוץ, משרד ראש הממשלה, כולנו עבדנו לראות מה קורה עם הווטו האמריקאי, והאם נכון הדבר שאתם עבדתם על כך שלא יהיה וטו אמריקאי? זה שתי שאלות שאני אשמח אם תיתן תשובות עליהן.
היה וטו למרות נתניהו, לא בזכות נתניהו.
נכון.
חשוב להגיד.
First of all, on Iran sanctions, we worked for the passage of the legislation of Iran sanctions. This is one of the misunderstandings and, frankly, lies about J Street that is too common. In fact, the ambassador, Michael Oren, called me personally to thank me for our work for the passage of the Iran sanctions legislation.
So he knows your phone number.
He does know our phone number. We do
thought he
speak.
forgot.
And I would urge you to ask him whether or not we supported Iran sanctions or not. As far as the veto, our recommendation to the president, as well as to the Prime Minister of Israel, was to put forward a new diplomatic initiative in order to delay and put off UN action. We think the worst place for the fate of Israel to be discussed and decided is the United Nations. The United Nations is biased against Israel. It is a place that is not good for us to resolve the dispute with the Palestinian people, and our primary call was for the United States and for the State of Israel to put forward a new initiative, a new diplomatic initiative to defer this. We did say that if that did not happen, that the United States could not veto or should not veto a resolution that essentially states American policy. For 8 administrations, the United States has opposed the settlements beyond the Green Line. And for the United States to veto a resolution that restates its own policy undermines the credibility of the United States in the international community's eyes, and that itself is no good for the state of Israel.
ואין לך בעיה שבשעה שממשלת ישראל ומדינת ישראל עושה מהלך מסוים, אתם עושים מהלך מנוגד? למרות ההשקפה שלך, אבל בפועל יש פה...
הוא אמר לך בצורה ברורה שהוא לא מסכים עם הממשלה שלך, מה זה הכל?
הוא מייצג את יהדות ארצות הברית ולא את האינטרס הישראלי.
לא מייצג את ארצות הברית.
שכשראש הממשלה עושה פעולה, שר